Sean O'Malley just turned Marlon Chito Vera into mincemeat, becoming the first person ever to cut him open. And not only did he cut him open, the most durable man I've ever seen, Chito Vera, but he made him look like the elephant man. The most beautiful 5-round showcase you could possibly expect from Sean O'Malley that I think exceeded most people's expectations. O'Malley is upset that he didn't get the finish, but, I mean, there's just nothing you can do. When you have someone in front of you that's that durable, O'Malley hit him with the best possible shots that you could imagine. There were even points where O'Malley had Chito hurt badly in the 5th round, which was shocking to see. And before we get into the main event, this is my full card recap for UFC 299. We're going to talk about Petr Yan beating Song Yadong. We're going to talk about Jack Della Maddalena sleeping out Gilbert Burns just when Gilbert Burns was just about to stink up that decision victory. And, of course, Benoit Saint Denis is in the mix too. We're going to talk about him and Dustin Poirier. We're going to talk about the whole card. So if you're interested in just hearing my take on a particular one of these fights, make sure to go to the timestamps in the description. And now, without further ado, Sean O'Malley destroying Marlon Chito Vera. Now, I did pick Sean O'Malley to dominate this fight and win basically every round, but I didn't think he was going to do it this easily. Now, there was only a couple of hairy moments for O'Malley in this fight. It was the 4th round when Chito started to really put a lot of pressure on him, and he just said, to hell with it. Like, I'm just going to get in this guy's face and make it ugly. But even when he did that, O'Malley was punishing him. O'Malley even won the 4th round. But what I'm most impressed with is O'Malley's ability to strike with such a high output for 5 rounds straight. And although Marlon is not the best striker in this division, nobody has ever stood with him for 5 rounds and made him look like this, okay? Phenomenal strikers like Cory Sandhagen, for example, who is another rarity that switches his stances all the time and fights really well from southpaw and orthodox no matter what the stance is. Cory Sandhagen, even with the threat of the takedown established early in his fight, could not come close to landing at the same clip as Sean O'Malley, could not come close to putting anywhere near this amount of damage on Marlon Chito Vera like we saw Sean O'Malley do tonight. I think it is clear at this point that Sean O'Malley is by far, maybe not by far, but I think it's clear that this is the best striker in MMA right now. And I understand that he hasn't necessarily outstruck the best strikers in his division by and large yet. Like, he still has to get through a Sandhagen. He still has to outstrike him. You know, we might need to see him and Yan again, but he did do really well against Yan. Yan had the threat of the takedowns, and Yan was shooting a bunch of takedowns. And listen, he technically lost. I think he won the fight, but I think this version of O'Malley beats everyone on the feet. I don't see anyone hanging with O'Malley on the feet. This is the bantamweight division, so right off the bat, we have to understand that this is the most skilled division in the UFC as far as striking goes. And holy fuck, I don't understand how Chito didn't get KO'd in this fight. O'Malley said that it was hard to hit Chito. I've heard everyone say that about him. Cory has said that about him. A lot of other guys have said that about him. O'Malley, it doesn't look like it, because, I mean, you look at Chito's face. I watched the fight. I'm listening to the impact of these strikes, especially that knee that was landed in the 3rd round. We usually use like a baseball bat to describe those kinds of sounds, but not even that would do it justice. I mean, some of the shots that O'Malley was hitting Chito with in this fight were disgraceful. They were abominable, disgusting. And Chito just plowed through it. But even though he couldn't finish Marlon Vera, he styled on him in every way. The boxing looked phenomenal. The low kicks looked phenomenal. The body kicks looked phenomenal. O'Malley is just so well-rounded on the feet. As I said earlier, he could fight from both stances. He can do it for 5 hard rounds. He answered a lot of questions about his gas tank too. And you know what? As far as his durability is concerned, he did eat a couple of decent shots from Chito. The leg kicks just were a non-issue for O'Malley in this fight. What more could you have asked for? Maybe a KO, but it's like, you know, he wasn't going to get it. He landed perfect shots on Chito. He has a lot of power. Chito's just built different still. But for O'Malley to cut him open, to bruise him up, to make Chito look like Chito made Rob Font look, is insane. And I think this dude is going to knock Cory Sandhagen the fuck out. Okay? And I think O'Malley's not only going to knock Cory out, I think he's going to knock out Merab. Okay? And Yan, We're going to talk about Yan in a second. I still think that Yan is a tough fight for O'Malley, but after what I saw tonight, I think O'Malley chins Yan too. I understand Yan has a good chin. I don't think anyone is surviving O'Malley on the feet at this point. You're going to need to mix in the takedowns. And if you can mix in the takedowns, it does definitely become a different fight, 100%. But I cannot pick anyone to outstrike O'Malley. All right? Ilia Topuria, we'll see. A lot of people don't want to see that matchup. I do respect O'Malley for calling out Ilia. To say that he's ducking bantamweights to go up and fight a guy that can actually sleep him out cold with one shot is a little crazy. I understand we want O'Malley to defend his belt, but let's talk about him defending his belt, okay? For Chito, let's see him fight Yan. I think that's a good fight to make. For O'Malley, it's going to be Merab next, and then I think Cory Sandhagen is next in line. Both of those guys have a title shot reserved. The reason why I think O'Malley beats Cory Sandhagen, for example, is because Cory Sandhagen is just a much less dynamic, slower, less heavy on the output style of striker, who is durable, 100%, who is smart, but come on, like, Cory Sandhagen ain't even fucking close to O'Malley. He doesn't have the same speed, he doesn't have the same power, he doesn't have the same footwork. You know, he can have all the IQ he wants, he can do all the test tubes in the lab coat bullshit he wants. Cory Sandhagen is not fucking with O'Malley on the feet. It's a total joke to even think he can, okay? Sandhagen doesn't have a lot of sting on his shots. He's much, much slower. He doesn't fight as well out of each stance as O'Malley. O'Malley is literally a guy that can fight perfectly out of either stance. Cory Sandhagen, for the most part, does his best work in orthodox. And I think Sandhagen has to mix it up. And you know what? I don't think Sandhagen finishes O'Malley on the ground, and I don't think he can control him for that long. I'd expect O'Malley to be getting better rapidly. He's had a training camp for Aljo. He probably is doing grappling heavily for every single title fight, considering if he can beat the fuck out of people like this, you're expecting them to eventually shoot, which also leads me to believe, what the fuck is Chito doing, not at least trying his luck at a takedown? I don't even think he shot one, but I just don't think Sandhagen beats O'Malley at this point, and I no longer think it's that tough of a fight. I just think O'Malley's a little bit too fast for him, too dynamic for him, too dangerous for him, too powerful for him. I just don't think Sandhagen is a threat on the feet. He might be a threat by decision, but I think he'd get beat up too badly. If O'Malley can do what he did tonight to Chito's face, I don't think Cory Sandhagen is going to look too pretty after that fight either. And as far as Merab goes, like any Merab fight, if it goes into the second, third, and fourth, you're basically screwed. As soon as Merab gets his hands on you and starts to muscle you around and push you around, it's tough. It is tough. But every round does start on the feet. It is very dangerous, and I still think O'Malley sleeps out Merab because Merab, it takes him a few minutes to get going. He has a very short stature and reach compared to O'Malley, and he's nowhere near as fast, and he's not a guy that can establish a lot of control on the ground. I think that O'Malley can keep his distance early on in that fight, and because he's so good at managing distance, that'll let him bide time on the feet to pick his shots before Merab closes the distance, and Merab's going to have to take some risks. I think O'Malley sleeps him, all right? Just because O'Malley could not put out Marlon Chito Vera, whose chin is made out of some special element. I don't even know what the fuck it's made out of, but it's ridiculous. Just because he's not sleeping out Chito Vera does not mean he doesn't knock out a bunch of other bantamweights. I can't see the other bantamweights taking this much punishment. That knee that Chito ate, nobody else is taking that. So, there's that. Amazing performance from O'Malley. I think he did raise his stock tonight. Yes, maybe a finish, a viral highlight reel finish would have been ideal for him, but, you know, for people that actually watch the fight, this is going to get O'Malley a lot of respect. And he did kind of prove that the first fight was a total fluke. And it kind of was, even though it's a legit win. Technically, his body didn't hold up. It was a bit of a fluke. O'Malley was never supposed to lose to Chito. They were just never on the same level. And I think he answered a lot of questions as far as the cardio goes, the durability, namely his legs, his durability in his legs. He didn't really slow down all that much in the later rounds. So, great win for O'Malley. Chito, I think it's time that he fights someone like Petr Yan. That's the matchup to make. Let's get on to the next one, is Michael Venom Page and Kevin Holland. I did not think Michael Venom Page was going to school Kevin Holland this badly. Now, to be fair, Kevin Holland didn't take a great approach to this fight. As far as his striking went in the early going, He was chucking these like winging hooks, looping, slow hooks, and he kept getting countered with straight shots from Michael Venom Page, whose speed is just insane. And at the age of 36, after having an entire career, for him to be this fast still is pretty nutty. Like, I honestly was shocked at the speed of Michael Venom Page. He literally made Kevin Holland look more helpless on the feet than Wonderboy did. And I know Wonderboy is not as fast, and he's not as powerful and explosive, and he's better in other ways. But, I mean, Kevin Holland could not whiff the chin of Michael Venom Page. The low kicks, he wasn't really landing a lot of them, Kevin Holland, that is. But he did shoot a takedown in this fight, and he actually got one. And I actually thought he was possibly going to get that submission in the second round. Michael Venom Page gets up to his feet. So we have Kevin Holland wrestling and actually trying to mix it up and make it a little bit boring and chuck his ego to the side, and he still got fucked up on the feet. He still got pieced up. Who's going to stop Michael Venom Page on the feet other than the guys that are well-rounded, that are actually the most elite fighters you could think of? I mean, Kevin Holland losing this fight is not shocking to me, but the fact that he got dominated that badly, I mean, Kevin Holland had moments against Wonderboy where he was rocking him, and even in the second and third round where things were starting to get rough, he was still landing some shots here and there. He could not touch Michael Venom Page in this fight, okay? And if it's a similar situation to the main event. If it wasn't for Kevin Holland's chin, I think most welterweights probably get KO'd from the type of shots that Michael Venom Page is landing in that fight. And Kevin Holland is not the easiest dude to hit clean. So, incredible performance from Michael Venom Page. The walkout was awesome too. And it just shows that when these Bellator guys come to the UFC, especially the bigger name ones, I mean, this is basically everything to them. This is the moment they've been waiting for. They level up tenfold. I take that back. They don't level up tenfold, but what I mean is they really seem to get up for these UFC debuts because they know this is the fucking prime time. This is the real deal. And I could guarantee you that Michael Venom Page trained a lot harder for his UFC debut than he has for some of his fights in the past. But you know what? He is as elite as it gets. And I just kind of needed to see him do it against a UFC top 15, top 20 caliber guy to really solidify it. And you know what I have to say about Michael Venom Page? And this was pissing some people off in my live stream. I actually think he would sleep out a ton of the best strikers in the UFC. I do. All right. I understand we've only seen him fight Kevin Holland. I don't give a fuck. Okay. Kevin Holland has a granite chin. Michael Venom Page's speed is insane. Does he beat Shavkat Rakhmonov? I don't think so. I think Shavkat takes him down and does a lot better than Kevin Holland. Does he beat Leon Edwards? I think it's a similar situation. Leon Edwards is a much better striker than Kevin Holland, and he's a much better grappler too. Does he beat guys at middleweight like Anthony Hernandez? Does he beat Strickland? Does he beat Dricus du Plessis? Does he beat Khamzat Chimaev? Hell no. But does he beat Whittaker and Izzy? Hell yeah. I understand that may sound crazy, but it's just the speed that kills. And the reason why I bring up Izzy and Whittaker, for example, let's get into Whittaker because my chat was going off on me for saying this. And I just bring up names like this, by the way, because the first thing that I think of when I see a really impressive performance from a striker like MVP is, how well would he do against the best strikers around his weight class? And that's why I'm bringing up middleweight, because it is definitely possible that MVP could just be in the UFC for some really fun fights like that. And he doesn't have to be going through the meat grinder at welterweight, fighting his way up, fighting Shavkat and JDM, and then Bilal to get his title shot. It doesn't need to be that route for him. How does he do against the best strikers is where my mind goes. And so the reason I brought up Whittaker is because I'm thinking of guys that I think he could beat. And I think he chins Robert Whittaker. Chinny Robert Whittaker, not even close to being as durable as Kevin Holland when it comes to taking a punch. You might say Whittaker's too big. What would that really mean in this fight? Is Whittaker going to out-muscle him on the ground and out-grapple him? Whittaker can't hold anyone down to save his life. Is Whittaker going to sub someone? Whittaker doesn't sub anyone. Whittaker doesn't TKO people on the ground. Whittaker hasn't gotten a single TKO on the feet since 2017. Whittaker relies on his speed. Guess who's faster than him? MVP. And it's pretty fucking obvious just based on the eye test. I think Michael Venom Page could sleep some of the best strikers in the UFC right now. Some people are saying they want to see him fight Wonderboy Thompson. That's a dangerous fight for Wonderboy Thompson, who might be able to outstrike MVP tit for tat. But my goodness, if you're getting caught with the shots that MVP was landing on Kevin Holland, I know he's landing flush shots on Holland because he's not the best, but the speed is what is so crazy about this guy. 36 years old, moving that fast, it is insane to me. I think he sleeps with a lot of people, all right? I think you got to be well-rounded, or your defense has to be on point to beat this guy, all right? So I'm really impressed with Michael Venom Page. I'd honestly love to see him fight Ian Gary. I'd love to see him fight someone like, someone mentioned Jack Della Maddalena. I want to see him up against like a long, rangy striker or someone else that has a karate blitz. And that's why I love the Wonderboy matchup, the Ian Gary matchup, the Robert Whittaker matchup. Whittaker because he has the karate blitz. I don't really need to see him up against a stocky, sturdy guy like Jeff Neal or Jack Della Maddalena, because you know what? Sometimes those matchups can be a little bit stinky, right? JDM versus Kevin Holland, for example, not the most fireworks matchup. Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal, not the most fireworks matchup. Let's see MVP fight a long, rangy guy. Again, you may think I'm crazy for saying he beats Whittaker. Whittaker doesn't have the same chin as Kevin Holland. Whittaker doesn't do anything to people on the ground. He has great takedowns, can't do a damn thing with them. Hasn't KO'd a fly since 2017. Relies on his speed and is not the faster guy in this fight. Does the Irish jig when he gets hit flush, and MVP is the perfect guy to sneak in a good shot. I think he KOs him. I want to see him fight guys like that, okay? So I'm very impressed by MVP, and I'm happy to see him actually get past a UFC caliber guy. So great win from him. Kevin Holland, embarrassing, man. At the end of that fight, he was really complaining. He was doing the Chris Curtis impression, yelling at MVP, "Come on, what are you doing? What are you doing?" But that is cope to the highest degree. We saw Kevin Holland in full form coping in this fight. So that was interesting. It wasn't as boring as I suspected. Great fight. And I'm not going to overlook MVP from here on out. So let's get on to the next one. On to the next one. Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. Yan gets it done. And this is honestly one of the best feelings I've had in a long time. I know in my last video that I made on Benoit Saint Denis and Dustin Poirier, I talked about how it's been a minute since I've had one that was really satisfying. But now that I think of it, this is one of the most satisfying moments I've ever had as an MMA fan. Seeing Yan bounce back from 3 L's is one of the best feelings ever, honestly. I'm going to show you guys a couple of my reactions during this fight where I was just going berserk. But the reason why I picked Petr Yan to win this fight is because he's not washed, okay? He's only lost one convincing fight to Merab. And I was saying to everyone, listen, Song's really good. He's really durable. He's just not as good of a boxer as Petr Yan. His hands aren't as finesseful. They're not as good. They're close, but they're not on that level. And this is not Sean O'Malley with a super long reach that's switching stances and, fighting as a very rangy striker that's nonstop on the feet. This is not someone with that type of output, with that type of creativity. And this is also not someone like Merab Dvalishvili who can just spam takedowns and never gas out, because there were a couple moments, as we saw, where Song was looking really tired. And this was a grueling fight. Even Yan was tired in the 3rd round. And this is not Aljo, who takes you down and gets your back and just banks the round, okay? It's someone that's just, very tough, very durable, with knockout power, just not as much finesse on the feet, with the hands, with the boxing. And that's how Yan won this fight. He was just a little bit better everywhere. A little bit better in the boxing, which was where the majority of this fight took place. Those leg kicks from Song Yadong, a lot of people that were picking him were expecting him to win this fight, racking up tons of points with low kicks. Yan hasn't really struggled with low kicks in the past, honestly. Only against Merab, where I think he may have been compromised a little bit going into that fight. He got out of the way of those low kicks perfectly, just scooted right out of the way. As far as the boxing is concerned, both of these guys showed up with the best jab they've ever showcased during a fight. Yan's jab looked great. Song Yadong, who hasn't had a great jab throughout his career, his jab looked really good. There were moments where they were just going back and forth with their jab left and right, but it was the pocket boxing of Petr Yan, the combinations, mixing it up to the body that really made the big difference. And most importantly, it was the grappling, okay? Yan would steal rounds with his grappling, and I said going into this fight, if there's someone I think is the better grappler, it's Petr Yan, because no one really controls him on the mat like that, and people have held Song down if they've been able to get him there. Yan has some crafty takedowns. If he can take down Song, I think he'll be able to control him, and he did just that. I was getting worried early on, especially in the first when Song got his takedown, had a little bit of control. He started muscling around Petr a little bit, and I got like PTSD from the Merab fight, seeing someone muscle around Yan a little bit. I was thinking, oh shit, like here we go, here comes the chain wrestling, and here comes Yan gassing out and just fighting someone that's going to frustrate him for the whole fight. And Song looked good, feinting the takedowns, but as soon as Yan warms up into a fight, you know, it's like your chin is a magnet. He's just going to land everything. He's so efficient with everything that he throws. And those takedowns were so clutch, so crafty. Those sneaky takedowns from Yan, getting it at the very end of every single round, especially in the third when it was close. There was like a minute and 10 seconds left, and Yan secured it. I couldn't be more happy. He's back in the win column against another really tough bantamweight opponent. And this is the thing about the bantamweight division, right? We just saw O'Malley dominate Chito, and I honestly do think that Chito is probably the worst top 5 guy. But in all of these other fights that we're going to see in the bantamweight division, they're all, for the most part, going to be pretty competitive. And it's just that Yan is fighting the best levels of competition, right? Song Yadong, O'Malley, Merab, Cory Sandhagen. He has fought the most killers out of anyone in this division. And, you know, sometimes he's going to have competitive fights, and we've seen some of these decisions don't go his way. If you really look at the O'Malley fight, he should have a win over O'Malley. Only really lost convincingly to Merab, okay? So phenomenal win for Yan. And I'm going to show you a couple of great moments from my live stream reaction, because I was just going crazy. I'll show you a moment from the second round when he gets the takedown and the third.
Song landed a good shot too. Nice right hand from Yan. Yan gets out of the way of that right hand. Takedown! Yeah! Let's go, motherfucker! Woo! There we go. Yeah, elbow on the ground. Yo, with this round, let's go! Woo! Yes! There we go. Yes! Elbow from Yan. Yeah, get him out of there. Yes! Peter, Yan sells. Yeah, let's go. Round 2 for Yan. There we go. Song dog gassing out. He's cut.
So amazing win for Petr Yan. I'd like to see him fight Chito next in a number 1 contenders fight. Whoever wins that gets a title fight. Chito is going to need a long time to heal up. And this was a war. This was a really high-paced battle. They were landing a lot. In my opinion, this was the best fight on the main card as far as competition goes, and there being a war element to it where both guys are landing hard shots, right? We saw Yan land some nasty uppercuts, and we saw Song stumble Yan with a couple of hooks in this fight. Amazing fight. Yan was landing spinning wheel kicks and spinning back kicks. Just a beautiful fight overall. Super high level. Yan also physically looked amazing too. This is probably the best shape he's ever been in. If you actually look at his physique, back in the day when he was fighting guys like Faber and when he was fighting Aldo, he was a lot softer, a little bit skinnier than he is now. He seems to be really growing into his physique in the bantamweight division, getting bigger as a 135-pounder. And I expect him to beat Chito. And the reason why I want to see that matchup is because I don't think Sandhagen and Yan should fight again. Sandhagen, he deserves a title shot. And I don't want to see Merab versus Yan again. I want Yan to fight Chito. It makes sense. Chito's coming off of a pretty bad loss, but it wasn't a title fight. It's a fun fight too. Let's make it happen. Let's get on to the next one. Jack Della Maddalena versus Gilbert Burns. JDM with an amazing comeback TKO in the third round, getting the victory straight from the jaws of defeat. He was on his way to losing, honestly. Once again, like in a bunch of other Gilbert Burns fights, Gilbert Burns kind of needed the grappling control in order to get this one done. but just wasn't able to keep JDM nailed to the mat in the third. JDM actually reversed him, which is really impressive. Actually, I think Jack Della Maddalena's grappling is proving to be pretty decent. And as soon as Gilbert Burns back on the feet, after he got reversed, he fought with great urgency. He looked for a takedown. He got right back on Jack, but unfortunately, it came back to bite him. He ran right into a perfectly timed knee on the ground. JDM catches him flush, and the ground and pound shots were just perfect accuracy. The ref gave him every single chance to survive. No cigar. Gilbert Burns gets slept. Brutal to see Gilbert Burns getting put out like that. You know, I mean, he's such a wholesome guy. He's got such a fun style to watch as well. You just don't want to see Gilbert Burns get KO'd. It is kind of rough. I am a Gilbert Burns fan, but this is what happens when you're fighting Jack Della Maddalena. He's dangerous from the moment the fight starts to the last moment. He's a finisher. He's a dog, too. He's super tough. He took some monster shots from Gilbert Burns. I'm talking like really flush overhand rights. I will give Burns some credit. He was going to win this fight. All he needed was one more minute to stink it up on the ground, and I think he would have gotten the decision. I think he won the first round, but he did lose the second round. It was starting to fall away from him a little bit on the feet, but that's not that surprising considering Gilbert Burns is like 37, and Jack Della Maddalena is one of the best boxers in this division. But it wasn't like JDM was hurting Gilbert Burns in the first and in the second. He landed some decent shots. He was going a lot to the body, which was good. But he wasn't really affecting Gilbert that much with his hands in the second round, in the first. It was not up until we saw the knee in the third round land flush that Gilbert Burns got hurt. And that's when the finishing sequence happened. So, you know, it was a good performance from JDM. I don't think he's the monster that some of us thought he may have been once he were to fight someone like Gilbert. I think people may have expected a little bit of a more impressive performance from JDM, meaning maybe like he would have affected Burns a little bit more with his hands earlier on. But either way, it was a good win. Gilbert Burns just does not have the best submission threat on the ground. He doesn't have great ground and pound. It's really his defensive grappling, in my opinion, that is the most impressive. Whereas offensively, he's just decent, you know. But JDM was able to survive. Good win for Jack Della Maddalena, and he called out Shavkat Rakhmonov, which is an amazing call out. And Shavkat is a much more aggressive fighter than Gilbert Burns is these days. I know that people think of Gilbert Burns as super aggressive, and he can be, especially when you think of his fights with Khamzat Chimaev. You think, dude, Gilbert Burns comes to war all the time, but he actually is someone that likes to keep a good amount of distance on the feet these days, especially after the Kamaru Usman fight. But Shavkat, I could see Shavkat come crashing forward on Jack Della Maddalena, and I think that would be a perfect number one contenders fight. I think it'd be a war, and I think it would be more competitive than the Jeff Neal fight. You know, Jeff Neal may be faster than Jack, because I will say that Jack doesn't have the fastest hands, but he's a little bit of a headhunter. He doesn't mix it up as well, and I think that if you're going in on JDM, you're just asking to be hit to the body, and Shavkat Rakhmonov has a very long torso. It is easy to hit, and even if you have a really good chin, which Shavkat does have, you could be soft to the body. We saw another performance tonight where someone had a good chin that they were soft to the body. We'll talk about that again. I think it's a good fight. And of course, Shavkat's going to be dangerous if he takes down JDM. Probably more dangerous than Gilbert Burns. I know people might not want to hear that, but it is true. Shavkat Rakhmonov is a better finisher on the ground than Gilbert Burns in an MMA setting. Even though he could take him down, it's going to be tough. JDM's a big welterweight. He has good takedown defense. He has good cardio. I want to see that matchup. I think it's a phenomenal matchup. On to the next one. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis. And we're back to some coping. Listen, I'm not actually going to cope. It was a good win from Dustin Poirier. He took advantage of Benoit Saint Denis' horrible striking defense, which I knew wasn't great. And I knew Benoit was never going to be able to outstrike Dustin like that. Even though I did pick him by KO, I thought that Poirier would have been gassed after all the grappling, and he would have been wilting a little bit, and Benoit would have been coming on strong and building and not gassing. Benoit did gas very early compared to what I thought. I didn't expect that to happen at all. The cardio Benoit Saint Denis before this fight happened in some of his other fights looked tremendous. And I mean, listen, even though he was always the slower guy on the feet, and his speed is not necessarily something that I've thought was that great from the beginning, even though his speed was never going to be that good, like, he did definitely look really tired in the second round after the first grappling exchange. If you see the first punch that he threw, he took a massive breath. And yeah, I just think it was only a matter of time before Dustin Poirier capitalized off of a mistake from Benoit Saint Denis, who wasn't in any moments on the feet taking a step back. Like, he just kept pushing forward and throwing bombs, trying to slug at Dustin Poirier to close the distance, which is just so irresponsible. So despite Benoit taking a good, smart approach early on, when he got tired, he started to make some horrible decisions. His defense on the feet sucks. But there were some redeeming qualities when it came to his grappling. Dustin Poirier, in his interview, post-fight interview, not the one in the octagon, but the one where he got in front of the entirety of the media, he said that he wanted to pull guillotine. And I know this is ironic because going into this fight, I was saying Benoit wanted to go to the ground with Frivola. He wanted to pull guillotine and shit like that. I mean, I kind of believe Dustin, because he always goes for it, despite the fact that he never actually pulls it off. But, I mean, Dustin Poirier, you didn't want to have your back taken. You did not want to get mounted by Benoit Saint Denis. That is fucking crazy. So that's not the case. And Benoit Saint Denis did get close on a couple of occasions to finishing him, and I still think he is a very dangerous fighter. And even though DP and his gas tank proved me wrong a little bit, okay, and his ability to counter, which is always amazing, by the way, really was more important than Benoit Saint Denis' grappling. Benoit did kind of come crashing down a little bit in the second, much faster than I suspected. And I guess we will wait to see his next fight to see where his gas tank is if he doesn't show up with a volcano on his forehead, okay? I'm not blaming it on that. I'm not. Dustin Poirier made a bunch of mistakes and still won. Benoit Saint Denis' striking defense is atrocious, and I can understand the fact that he just got slept, and that's a big part of it. But I still have some questions about his gas tank because it looked a little bit weird tonight. I'm not going to lie, all right? Because out of nowhere, he just comes crashing down. But either way, Dustin Poirier survived the onslaught on the ground and did not break and did not slow down at all in this fight, despite the fact that it was tough for him. So, good performance from Dustin Poirier. And, I mean, not only a good performance, he literally slept him out cold. Cold with a follow-up shot. That was nasty. And as someone that's hyped up in Benoit Saint Denis, it is rough to see it go down like that. Okay? Let's get on to the next one. As far as opponents go, I want Benoit to fight Gamrot, and I want Poirier to fight Fiziev. Those would be good matchups. Let's get on to the next one. Curtis Blaydes versus Jailton Almeida. I picked Jailton Almeida, okay? But I am happy that Curtis Blaydes saved the heavyweight division, okay? Although Jailton Almeida was doing well, and although I like him, I mean, this is something that's good for the division. If Jailton were to have won tonight, I don't think he would have got a sub. He took down Curtis Blaydes like 7 times in the first round, and I was saying, holy shit, this is impressive. Like, who's going to stop him? All he needs to do is get his hands on you. He gets his hands on Curtis Blaydes in the second. That wasn't all he needed to do because he got slept. Not really slept. I mean, what do you expect? You're hanging on Curtis Blaydes' legs with your chin exposed for 10 seconds, and you're not even, like, getting close to the takedown. Curtis Blaydes started throwing some gnarly hammer fists on the side of his head. Eventually, Jailton Almeida fell down, and, you know, that was all she wrote. If Jailton Almeida would have won tonight, he possibly could have just stunk it up in front of Aspinall. He could have stunk it up in front of every single heavyweight. Maybe Pavlovich next. Maybe Gane. I don't think Jailton Almeida is just going to sub the top guys. I don't. Especially after seeing tonight. He took down Curtis Blaydes easily. Could not do fuck all with it. And so I think that this is going to be a wake-up call that actually you got to be a little bit more well-rounded. You have to have something else going on in your game other than spamming takedowns because, you know, you're still fighting some massive heavyweights. And this is not just a fat Shamil Abdurakhimov. This is not Derek Lewis necessarily that doesn't have the same fight IQ. When you're in there against the top 5 guys, they're going to be able to take advantage over certain mistakes that the other ones aren't. And that's what Curtis Blaydes was able to do. And Jailton Almeida, again, now that he's reaching the top of the weight class and he's fighting the biggest people, he's not going to be able to run through them as easily. His only way to win right now is looking like just taking people down and stinking it up. So I'm happy that Blaydes got it done, saving the heavyweight division, and it's going to teach Jailton Almeida not to just come in and spam a bunch of takedowns. You're going to have to get a little bit better on the feet. You're going to have to try your hand at striking a little bit more, and I think this will make him more entertaining in the future. As far as Curtis Blaydes, this is like the first time he's actually gotten past the number one contender in a number one contenders fight. Now, I know Jailton technically wasn't the number one contender, but because Gane and Pavlovich aren't matched up right now, and there's no other fight that could be viewed as a number one contenders fight, and especially because Curtis Blaydes has the history with Aspinall, this could be seen as a number one contenders fight, and for the first time, Curtis Blaydes wins when it really matters the most, when he's on the verge of potentially getting something. And Aspinall is the interim champ, but most of us kind of recognize him as like the true heavyweight champ because Jones has basically taken himself out of the division by relinquishing himself just to fight Stipe. So I'm happy for Curtis Blaydes. He finally breaks through when it really matters, and I think he's earned a fight with Tom Aspinall. Aspinall wants to get that one back too. I still think Aspinall KOs Curtis Blaydes. I don't think Blaydes is fast enough. I don't think he's good enough, and I think he can be taken down by Aspinall too, who is a lot bigger on the ground than Jailton Almeida and more well-rounded in general. But that's a fun fight, and I like to see it, and Aspinall needs something in the meantime. And the only other alternative would be Gane, and Aspinall just does not want to give Gane the opportunity, especially after Gane ducked him throughout the past year. So he's being a little bit petty, but that's totally fine. Gane cannot get infinite title shots. Let's get on to the next one. Mateusz Gamrot versus RDA. Horrible fight, atrocious. I did pick Mateusz Gamrot. This was boring for even Gamrot, I'm not going to lie. RDA surprised me early on in this fight, brutally dropping Mateusz Gamrot in the first. But what's new? Gamrot literally gets dropped in every single one of his fights. I did not think RDA was going to do it to him, but this was a bad knockdown. I mean, Gamrot was hurt badly. Of course, his instincts kick in and he goes out there and tries to crotch sniff for the rest of the round. RDA wins the first round on damage, even though Gamrot did take him down at the end of it and landed some good ground and pound shots. But the last two rounds were totally forgettable. It was Mateusz Gamrot failing takedowns, stinking it up against the fence, really like a Muhammad Makayev style of performance. And it was atrocious. It was horrendous, okay? And RDA is like 39. He's not getting any better. He's not going to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's a tough fight for him when Gamrot's just spamming takedowns and he's in his physical prime, you know what I mean? Like, it was tough, but horrible performance from Mateusz Gamrot. I wish RDA would have slumped him out in the first round. I want to see Gamrot fight Benoit Saint Denis. It is a fight where you cannot stink it up. It is an unflukeable win. You're going to have to go out there and take it to this guy. And Gamrot can't keep anyone held down. He can't sub anyone. He can't really hurt anyone. His striking is not bad. Like, it is decent for the lightweight division. He has had some good moments on the feet against some decent guys, but he gets dropped in every single one of his fights. Literally. Guram dropped him. Beneil dropped him. Arman dropped him. RDA dropped him. Fiziev is the only one that hasn't dropped him. Jalen Turner dropped him. Everyone drops Mateusz Gamrot. And I think Benoit could beat him too. And I honestly, like, let's be honest, we don't really want Mateusz Gamrot at the top of this division with these type of performances. But I will admit it, this is way worse than the usual Mateusz Gamrot fight. And I had high expectations for this one too, which is really a thorn in my side. Like, that kind of does suck. I expected this to be a poor man's Arman Tsarukyan Gamrot, but still fun. And it was anything but fun past the first round. Let's get on to the next one. Kyler Phillips versus Pedro Munhoz. I did pick Kyler Phillips to win this fight, and he gets it done dominantly in front of Pedro Munhoz. And what is really impressive to me is that Kyler Phillips has arguably not lost once in his entire UFC career, okay? His only loss on paper is to Raulian Paiva, and he beat the heck out of Raulian Paiva and actually, in my opinion, won 2 out of the 3 rounds. He got robbed in that fight, he's arguably 8-0 in the UFC with a clear, convincing win over Pedro Munhoz, basically dominating the first round, a bit of a closer second round, but still edging it out and definitely winning the third. And I said going into this fight that Pedro Munhoz, little tapping low kicks and T-Rex arms can only get you so far. Pedro's just a tough out. Like, he is the ultimate tough out. There's nothing that he does that's exceptional. Everyone talks about his low kicks. It's like he's not TKOing guys. He's not totally changing the course of a fight with them. He's just a stocky guy with big calves, and you think he's gonna kill everyone when he lands a low kick. But he doesn't. Alright? And his hands, they're alright, but he's got like these stubby little T-Rex arms that can't really find the mark on the long, rangier guys like Phillips. And Phillips was just much faster in this fight. There was one point in the first round where Phillips landed like an 8-piece combination, and then there was a little bit of a break, and he followed that up with like another 5-piece combination. Phillips was styling on him, making Pedro Munhoz look kind of hopeless in this fight, and just making him look mid. So, Phillips a little bit under the radar. He is, in my opinion, one of the best strikers in the bantamweight division right now. It's a shame that there are so many bantamweights that train at his gym, though. Like, there's a lot of good matchups for him. For example, him versus Marcus McGee would be fun. Him versus O'Malley in the future, that would be something entertaining. But the matchup that I want to see for Phillips, I wouldn't mind Umar Nurmagomedov. I've been saying Umar versus Jonathan Martinez is a good fight to make. I don't think the UFC is going to make it, even though that's what the fans want. Let's do Kyler Phillips versus Umar. Something like that. Or just Kyler Phillips versus Said Nurmagomedov. That's another amazing fight that I would love to watch. The striking would be phenomenal in that one. So, let's get on to the next one. Felipe Lins and Ion Cutelaba. Ion Cutelaba, 0 IQ. I'm never going to pick him to win a fight again unless it's actually against a massive can. And Felipe Lins is not a can by any means. He's a pretty okay fighter. But I do think that Ion Cutelaba, with a different approach, may have had a different result. But it's Ion Cutelaba, and you cannot expect this guy to fight the way he should. He's going out there slugging in the pocket with Felipe Lins, even getting taken down. Ion Cutelaba is the guy that's supposed to go out there and take Felipe Lins down in the early going. He did not shoot a single takedown until the end of the second, and he was already losing that round, right? And Felipe Lins has the reach advantage. He was mixing up takedowns, and I just thought this was atrocious work from Ion Cutelaba. But yeah, I thought we were going to see a Hulk smash ground and pound TKO against the former heavyweight like he had last time out when he fought that guy from Canada. What was his name? Tanner Boser. But no, we saw a typical low IQ performance from Ion Cutelaba. Horrible work. On to the next one. Michel Pereira versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. I did pick Michal Oleksiejczuk, and partly because he has a really good chin, he has a great gas tank, and Michel Pereira doesn't have a great gas tank. And it didn't matter, because Michel Pereira annihilated Michal Oleksiejczuk to the body with a knee, and a couple other body shots as well, and then just simply jumped all over him on the ground, took care of him like it was nothing. And if you're looking at Michel Pereira's last 2 wins, 2 early first-round finishes against decent level competition in the middleweight division. Not top 15, not necessarily top 20, but like pretty decent guys. Top 30, top 25 guys in the middleweight division. Michal Oleksiejczuk, that's a tough motherfucker right there, who has some really decent striking. Like, no one's really blasted through him like that. Again, it doesn't matter how good your chin is, you can be soft to the body. And that's kind of what we found here. And then we saw Andre Petroski get slept out in the first round too. Michel Pereira is a problem at middleweight, and we didn't really see him finishing people this quickly in the welterweight division. But now that he's in his natural weight class, he still is a pretty big middleweight, by the way. I mean, I don't understand how Michal Oleksiejczuk used to fight at light heavyweight. He looks tiny for middleweight even now. But Michel Pereira, big middleweight nonetheless, even if he used to fight at welterweight. Tons of power in this weight class, and showcasing that there is a massive skill gap between welterweight and middleweight. We see it all the time. This just further proves that. So, really good win for Pereira. The middleweight division is insanely stacked. I don't know who to pair him up with, but you could do Roman Kopylov. You could do Joe Pyfer. There's a ton of good matchups there. On to the next one, Robelis Despaigne versus Josh Parisian. I predicted a first 30-second KO, and it happened in the first 30 seconds. So I'm pretty happy about this one, but it was an easy pick, obviously. But the first 30 seconds was all he needed. Dude, this is like the most lopsided matchup you could have possibly ever made. Josh Parisian is literally a welterweight fighting at heavyweight. He has no power. He's not skilled in any way, and he's up against 6'7", former Taekwondo Olympian with the longest reach in the UFC with one-shot KO power. And Robelis fell off balance throwing a kick in the first exchange. Josh Parisian starts barging forward, trying to plow him over, and even off balance, Robelis like stumbling backwards in a position where he cannot land his most powerful shot, like where he's landing his weakest, worst shots, still puts away Josh Parisian with some nice hooks on the back foot. Again, totally off balance nonetheless, but that's all it took to put away old Josh Parisian, who should have never have taken this fight. There was nothing he could have done to win this fight. A takedown attempt? Come on, like, he wouldn't have gotten fucking close, okay? I want Robelis Despaigne to take a big jump up in competition, but not into the rankings like Shamil Blabgaziev did. Now, I'm not saying that Robelis and Shamil are the same. I don't want Robelis to fight Shamil either, because I think he KOs Shamil, and Shamil's my new favorite fighter. But I want Robelis to fight someone that's right outside of the rankings that is a tougher out than Josh Parisian. Maybe like a Tafa brother, for example, or a crafty vet like Marcos Rogerio de Lima, who is way more athletic, way more powerful, that also has the threat of the takedown. Let's see him fight someone at around that level. If he wins that, then it's time for maybe a Rosenstrike or a Derek Lewis, whoever wins that matchup, because I want that fight to be made, Rosenstrike and Derek Lewis. And if he wins that, number one contenders fight. Basically 3 more fights and then a title for Robelis. We don't need to rush him too much. He's 35, so in Cuban years, that is only 30. So let's make sure that Robelis Despaigne has some more time to prepare his takedown defense. But, I mean, yeah, no fraud check here. And I don't think he's going to get fraud checked anytime soon. I mean, you just look at the guy. He's in incredible shape. Honestly, the only people that are in that type of shape in the heavyweight division are top 5 guys. Like, there is no one else in the heavyweight division that's just in that good shape, that's that big for the weight class, that isn't top 5. There's not a single person, right? Almeida, top 5, in really good shape. Gane, top 5, in really good shape. Pavlovich, top 5, in pretty good shape. And this dude is in better shape than, like, Aspinall and Pavlovich, okay? So, of course, Robelis Despaigne is going to make it into the top 5 eventually. And if his takedown defense is good, like, we will find that out eventually. I honestly don't see anyone beating him. Honestly, like, maybe Aspinall chins him. Like, fair enough. I take that back. I take that back. It's the heavyweight division, and there's Tom Aspinall out there with one-punch KO power. And Robelis still could be a bit of a clunky, wild dude on the feet. You never know if he's a glass cannon. So I do take that back. But I guess what I'm saying is, if his takedown defense is decent, I don't think anyone is going to be able to stand with this guy on the feet unless he has a moment like that in every fight where he falls over himself and he's like a totally awkward oaf in the heavyweight division. But people fall in their UFC debut. Bo Nickel fell. So I'm not ready to just say he's like a sloppy dude just because he fell, okay, by throwing a kick. It happens. UFC octagon jitters. And then on to the last one, Asuel Mabayev versus CJ Vergara. I picked Asuel Mabayev to get this one done. He pulled it off by decision. Good win for Asuel Mabayev. And that's it. I went 7-5 on the card. Not the best, but I did get another main event correct on a pay-per-view. This is the 4th main event in a row for pay-per-views, so I'm on a bit of a roll when it comes to that. I think I'm going to be picking Jamal Hill for UFC 300, but I am worried that going against Poatan for the 3rd time in a row might not be a good bet, because I keep getting the Poatan picks wrong. Even when I pick him, he loses to Izzy, but I did pick him the first time. But either way, let's see if we can make this 5 pay-per-view main events in a row. I got the Benoit Saint Denis pick wrong, but the other one that really mattered to me tonight was the main event, and then Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. So Anyway, guys, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.